guys, Nick
Hello.
here from Just Few Studios, and welcome back to the J4U podcast. I'm with Luke.
Hi, I'm here now in Flagstaff. It's been like 3 weeks. Still not used to it.
Yeah, but we're gonna mess around with the setup over time, but this is the first Flagstaff podcast with us both up here, where we can just talk about some movie stuff and gaming stuff going on.
And the general world and stuff.
Oh yes. So basically, we're gonna jump into starting off with some of the kind of YouTube industry news. Sometimes we'll save that for the end, but I thought we'll kind of start with it since we have some good news and some bad news related to the YouTube side of things. One of the really cool and kind of unfathomable things is that just recently, between this podcast and our previous one, Pewdiepie hit 100 million subscribers.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's an unfathomable amount of people, especially for basically just one guy.
Yeah, just like one person. No, I mean, like, I don't know if he has like people helping editing videos.
I think he has an editor.
Okay, so I mean,
at the moment, so.
I guess in reality it's more like 2 people, but like still though, that's.
But as opposed to like
pretty crazy.
Most channels, especially like of that size, where it's a T-series, for example, where it's a bigger production company, or the 5-minute crafts. I'm not totally sure of how their business is run, but I guarantee you it's not just one person.
Yeah.
But it's like those kind of things. It's really interesting to see someone who started off as kind of just a lone creator, the model YouTube type of thing of just a normal person with a camera, now has evolved into that a point where they have 100 million subscribers. So whether you love or hate the guy, I kind of just see it as that's a respect thing of holy shit.
That is, yeah, like that's, like, try to imagine 100 million people in your mind right now. Like how, like that's kind of almost impossible to even really fathom to begin with. And that is like genuinely impressive. I'm trying to remember like who was like the second highest before PewDiePie.
Let me look it up while we're here, just so we can be informed. I want to say, I think so. T-series would be 1, PewDiePie 2. Maybe is 5-minute crafts. Yeah, 5-minute crafts. So, T-series is at number 1 with 111 million. PewDiePie has 101 million. Then 5-minute crafts number 3 is only at 60.5 million, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
Then you have a nursery rhymes channel, set India. I am unfamiliar with that. That's Canola Quandazilla. Is that how you pronounce it?
Canal Condzilla. I don't know.
Then you have the WWE, which I'm impressed they're that high.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm surprised they're that low. Actually, to be honest.
Really?
Just because, like, I mean, they're pretty much a freaking phenomenon. Or, I mean, I guess PewDiePie kind of is as well, but still, like...
Yeah, but I mean, like, maybe it just shows the WWE is good with their online marketing, because I'm surprised there's no, like, NFL channel that's up that high, or any other kind of NBA.
I think most of WWE's marketing consists of, like, wrestler memes, honestly.
That's fair. But then Justin Bieber, Dude Perfect, The Music, and so on, and that's basically the list, but yeah, so that's insane to me.
That is pretty cool. Also, I have no idea who those other 2 at the top were.
As in T-Series and 5-minute crafts?
Yeah.
So, T-Series is the production company in India that does all the music stuff. So basically, they're like India's equivalent to Disney.
Okay, so...
Only instead of doing animations and short films and all that kind of stuff, they'll do films and all that, but mainly, especially on the YouTube side of it, it's music videos. They're the distributor in India for music videos.
Okay, cool.
So it's like if you took all those other high music channels like the Justin Bieber's, Taylor Swift's, all that, and put them into one monster channel.
That's fair.
And then 5-minute crafts is like, hey, here's how to do this DIY project type of thing.
Okay,
it typically isn't 5 minutes, but you can do it yourself, maybe.
With a little bit of magic.
And hello, Dreadlord. Welcome to the live stream. When did you start streaming this? Exactly 5 minutes and 38 seconds ago, my friend.
Yeah, so you're pretty early, honestly.
But yeah, so those are the other 2 in the top 3, more or less.
That's pretty crazy.
And then in some kind of more downer industry news, Rooster Teeth, who's not only a big production company, but has a YouTube channel, has had a presence on YouTube and in the digital space for about the past 15 years. They've done animated series like they just recently did Genlock, Camp. They're the creators behind Red vs. Blue, RVB. And recently, and by recently I mean Thursday of this past week, they just had to do some massive layoffs. About 13% of the company got laid off, and that's about 50 people.
Wait, really? That many? Okay, jeez. Dang.
So 50 people were told Thursday that not to come to work the next day because they had to do massive layoffs.
I wonder if there's like any reason behind that, like if it's just been like bad times for the company or whatnot.
No, actually, this past year was really good financially for them. Rumor going around, I do want to speculate, this is rumor. I don't know what their books look like or any type of thing like that. So Rooster Teeth is owned by Fullscreen, who is owned by, and I could get the order of the top two flipped, but I want to say it's then AT&T, then Time Warner. And then recently, AT&T Time Warner just had a merger. And typically when that happens, one of the two companies spends a shit ton of money to get the other company. And with that, they want to try and make their money back as quickly as possible. So that means telling all the other companies down low to increase their profit margin. So that means doing things like Rooster Teeth just recently also had to raise their price of their first membership. And then also on the other side of that, lay off people so you're not spending as much on manpower, and then you're hopefully making more in other areas.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So that's the current rumor of the why behind it. But it is just a bummer that 50 people...
Yeah, like that's I mean, again, it's like for like a massive company and maybe like whatever, but like that's Rooster Teeth, which is, you know, pretty... I guess small in that comparison to like other... Like they're not a Disney or a...
No, they're owned by Warner Brothers, but they're not Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they're like a subsection of Warner Brothers. They're just like a tiny little thing.
So, it's kind of a crazy thing to where hoping the best for all the 50 people who were laid off from that. I know that all the higher ups have, one of which put out a public statement. Matt Holm, the CEO, and then Jeff Ramsey of Rooster Teeth, one of the other founders, did a little video thing talking about it, and you can tell that he was very saddened to have to do that.
Yeah, like just in general.
Yeah, but that's kind of one of the downer parts of the news I wanted to bring up, just show kind of both sides of that coin. And with that said, let's jump into the lighthearted thing that is movies and the MCU.
Yeah.
But anyway, the first big Marvel news we're going to talk about, and let me actually see comments before then. I'm usually good with names, but Film Fisher, right?
Yeah, so, that's me. Well, that's my alias, I guess. Yes. I go by.
Luke.
Yeah.
Luke the Film Fisher.
The Fisher of films.
But the first Marvel piece of news we're going to talk about is Spider-Man not being in the MCU.
Yes, and I'm very glad we're talking about this.
Yes, and I touched on this briefly in the Q&A podcast, but that was because it was happening then when I was doing that Q&A, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to not talk about it, but it was still when stuff was very new and fresh, and rumors were all over the place. You didn't know what was going on.
Complete, like, just kind of information chaos of no one was, like, giving any clear information on, is this true, or is this just, like, you know, clickbait kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I thought I would bring it up in that last podcast to kind of say what's happening, but I also said we'd be talking about it on this podcast, which we are. Now that more of the kind of facts have come out and we know a little bit more, and a lot of the BS rumors have been kind of swept away.
Yeah, now we kind of filter that out, and now we're at the nitty-gritty. Here's what is going on right now.
So I guess top line of this whole headline, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Me, I know there's so much, like, you know, fuck Sony for doing this, screw them, we're going to get Spider-Man back to Disney. Personally, this, for me at least, is the best thing that could have happened, in my honest opinion. Because, I mean, for one, Disney is sort of like, the contractual things that Disney was putting out there as, final, as in this is what needs to happen or no go, was just complete asinine garbage.
Sony couldn't have said yes.
Yeah, like, there's, like, unless if they wanted to completely screw themselves over with this, they made the completely correct move on that case. Just no question about that. And honestly, I'm kind of like fine with that because Disney has enough control over the Marvel canon as it is. I'd say they got enough stuff. And secondly, I feel like it's going to be better for the Spider-Man movies because, so like a lot of people think that these films, the Spider-Man films for the MCU, were made by Disney. which, I mean, isn't really true. They were just there to make sure that they have their MCU connections here and there, but they weren't the ones making it.
Yeah.
Sony was still the ones overseeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this means now, and this is the thing that I think will be the better improvement for the films, is that we won't have to have any connections to the MCU stuff, which is what I felt for, like, all the Spider-Man movies up to this point was what dragged it down.
Yeah.
Because, like, first film with Tony, like, Tony being there and being, like, a major aspect of, oh, Spider-Man's just trying to be, you know, like, Iron Man and all that sort of stuff, which was good, but it still kind of bogged the movie down. And then in Far From Home, that was, like, a massive, like, takeaway from the movie for me, was just how much, even though it was like, oh, he's going to try to be his own thing, then that just comes back to the Tony, like, thing with him and being like, all right, there's all this technology and stuff. Now we can just have a fucking Spider-Man movie itself, not having to worry about, okay, what connections it'll make for the next MCU film and all that. Just by itself, a Spider-Man film, which is going to be nice because I haven't seen that in, like,
it's been a while.
Years now.
And the last was Amazing Spider-Man 2.
So a good one. Hopefully a good one. So it gives me a lot more hope for this, and I'm kind of glad. I'd like Spider-Man by itself. I don't want it to just be kind of, like, thrown as, like, a background character, more or less.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you just said. From the deal standpoint, yeah, there's no way Sony could have agreed to what was being reported.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're unaware, basically the proposition, you can correct me if I get the number wrong, was that prior to this, the agreement that was made was that Sony would, you know, pay for the film, but then also get the profit that was made at the box office. Whereas Marvel would make all the merchandise money, which, when it comes to this type of movie, merchandise is where the vast majority of the money is made.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the rumors with this new version of the deal is, I want to say, was it 30%?
I think so.
Okay. So what I heard was the deal was Disney offered to pay for 30% of the Spider-Man movies, but in that they wanted 30% then of the profit.
Yeah. Which, I think it might have been even bigger. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, like around that area.
Yeah, which, considering they're also making merchandise, meaning Sony is making nothing.
Complete, like, dick in that sense. Like,
yes.
They are the ones that own Spider-Man, but they are not making anything off of this, so yeah.
Yeah. So I that was a situation where I don't think Sony could have said yes.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, Disney, how stupid are you to do that? Because, and Kevin Feige is kind of going through this right now, is that post-Endgame, Spider-Man is the character of Marvel. And when you think of the top three, and the numbers that of who was in the top three come from, like, 2010, so maybe it's not totally accurate anymore. But the three most well-known superheroes were Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. So from a worldwide appeal, having Spider-Man in a Marvel movie is fantastic business.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't want to lose that, especially after Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just why have, like, why would you be like, it's like the equivalent of going to a job and saying, I want to have, like, the highest salary possible when you're just, like, don't do much.
Yeah, so I definitely see it as stupid of Disney to jeopardize and lose that when it's time to negotiate a contract. They should have been more willing and say, yeah, we'll give you even a little bit more of the merchandise if you bring other Spider-Man properties to us.
Exactly, yeah. And nope.
So I agree with you on kind of the whole, I'm excited to see what they do with Spider-Man outside of the MCU. My worry comes from the place of mainly the fact that, without dancing around it, Avi Arad is kind of my fear. Whereas with the other films, Kevin Feige was kind of the producer who could keep Sony in balance. Without Kevin Feige's involvement, I'm hoping they don't let Avi Arad fill that position.
I guess that's fair, yeah.
Because he's the one who, gave us Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 1, and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
True. I guess that's fair.
I'm kind of worried, especially with his mindset of it's all about merchandise.
Yeah.
And that's where his brain is. That kind of makes me worried. So.
Yeah.
And also with the ending of Far From Home, I wouldn't want to be Sony and have to be handed that storyline and be like, and we can't use Marvel characters to clean this up? Fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of a shitty situation for them there, but I'm interested and optimistic to see what they're going to do, but I'm also kind of skeptical.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, even Avi Arad aside, Sony has made it clear they're trying to build a Spider-Man cinematic universe.
Yeah, yeah.
They have Venom. They're doing other projects like Silk Spectre, or not Silk Spectre, just Silk, and they're doing all the new Spider-Verse TV shows and those type of things they're developing.
I was assuming they might do like a Sinister Six film, maybe.
Exactly, because that was something they were talking about before they gave the rights over to Marvel.
Fucking Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a great setup of that.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to be getting away from the cinematic universe-y effect.
Maybe.
I'm just hoping that it will feel more natural in a universe of Spider-Man characters than having that Tony Stark crutch.
That's the thing. At least, like, it's not going to be something I'm totally 100% certain will be great, but I'm at least excited to see what they do with it, because now all of a sudden all these characters don't exist. Now we just have Spider-Man and whatever characters he has, and how are we going to go off of that now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's basically the Spider-Man news. Do you have anything else to add on to that?
No, it's just a very strange situation, but I'm at least excited to see, like, what they do with the next film.
Yeah. And I'll also kind of bring this up here because I don't remember if we talked about it in the last one, so I'll just say it again briefly while we're kind of talking about Spider-Man stuff. We have, Andy Serkis directing Venom 2.
Yeah, that was so interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of like, alright, like, I'm excited for Venom 2 regardless, just because, like, Venom 1 was, like, my kind of garbage. It was my kind of garbage, and it was probably the best comedy of the whole year. So I'm excited to see, like, if either one, they actually do something kind of like, interesting from a story stylistic standpoint, or if we just get my kind of garbage part 2. Yeah,
and I think either way, you're going to get one of those two. And
maybe even both. Who knows?
Yeah, and with Andy Serkis directing, the mocap for this next one is going to be so much better.
I'm pretty certain on that one, too. Yeah, like, he at least has an eye for that.
And having Andy Serkis direct Tom Hardy in mocapture, that I'm really excited to see.
I just hope they keep him doing, like, his fucking, like, pan shooting, like, craziness throughout the whole film, like they did with, like, the fucking lobster scene.
And now they also have Carnage to do that type of stuff.
Oh my god, they have Woody Harrelson. It's going to be so much campy goodness. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, and then one of the other kind of, this isn't really a rumor, it's more serious. They're shooting it in London at the moment.
Interesting.
Which means it doesn't look like it'll take place in San Francisco, at least not for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then the Morbius movie just finished or is still shooting in London. So there's a chance that film is supposed to take place in New York, and they're doing some London stuff.
Okay, yeah, like some stuff there.
But it could be them trying to set up also a Morbius connection.
Maybe.
So, I don't know. But anyway, that's some of the Spider-Man news. And I guess the last piece, which is less related, is the rumor that because Marvel just lost the Spider-Man character in their MCU, apparently Disney is kind of pushing Kevin Feige to fast-track properties like Fantastic Four and X-Men. So, I'm curious to see what that will do, because Kevin Feige is very meticulous about his plan.
Exactly, yeah.
So
it's I hope they don't fast track, because, like, how many times have we done Fantastic Four? How many times? None of them have been good. So just take your fucking time, please, if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Which, this wasn't on the agenda, but something that you just made me think of is the Russo Brothers, after Endgame, were kind of like, we want to take a break from Marvel, so they did their film with, what's his name? Actor who plays Black Panther.
Oh, Chadwick Boseman?
Chadwick Boseman, I think, and some other indie stuff. But apparently they're already willing to be like, hey, we'll do a Fantastic Four or an X-Men. So,
alright.
The Russo brothers kind of have my trust from directing ensemble Marvel films.
I guess, yeah.
So, I don't know. And the other person who's definitely been outspoken about Fantastic Four is the director of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Said he wants to do it.
I'd be down to see that too. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a guilty pleasure for me, honestly.
Yeah, I just really hope they nail the story, regardless of who directs it. That's kind of more my hesitation.
That's the thing. Like, at this point, like, it's not as much like directors as much as like story people for these kinds of films.
So, we'll see. But anyway, next on the list, we have some Disney Plus announcements. I saw at Comic-Con that I was like, and this is Phase 4, and then D23 came around. It's like, oh, we left some stuff off, wink, wink, and then they showed more Disney Plus stuff. So Kevin Feige's really embracing Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I could see why. I mean, it's it has a lot of potential in what it could do. Yeah. So the 3 that were announced are She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and Moon Knight. Which Moon Knight, I'm so excited for. I'm excited. Like, I don't know much about Moon Knight other than people really like it, and he's sort of like a smaller known character, and also that weird meme comic people keep posting all the time. Which one? The one it's like he's in a castle, and the caption is, "Where the fuck are you, Dracula? I want my fucking money, you dumb dork." Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Okay. But yeah, so the She-Hulk thing I find interesting because that's introducing another character in the Hulk. Not Rogues Gallery, but like an ensemble, canon. Canon. Which also raised a point of the reason we haven't gotten a Hulk solo film is Columbia Pictures owns the distribution right to Hulk movies. Yeah. But this shows that there's a loophole in shows. Exactly, yeah, like the shows and TV stuff. It kind of opens the door for characters like She-Hulk or Hulk getting a story via Disney Plus, which budget-wise, but still. Yeah, I was going to say it's like a bit yikes, but and we could see characters like the Leader in the MCU. So yeah, fucking, they set that up in the first Hulk film, and then they kind of just didn't do anything. Yeah, so. Screw you, Columbia. But yeah, so I'm really interested to see what they do with She-Hulk, especially as the She-Hulk character entering the MCU is interesting to what that could do for MCU moving forward. Yeah, exactly. Having another Gamma character. Yeah. There was one movie, like, I thought I heard was being moved to Disney Plus was Eternals. Is that now a Disney Plus thing, or am I just, like, not remembering things correctly? I don't think so. It would be crazy if they did that, considering their cast and what they're doing with it. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember hearing something about that and thinking that doesn't sound like a good idea, but, you know... Maybe I misread something. Yeah, I'm guessing not, but it's always possible. Okay, cool. All right. It would be, I think, a stupid move, considering it looks like that film is supposed to set up Phase 4. Yeah, also I'd like to see that in theaters, honestly. Yeah. More realistically, New Mutants could probably just be a Disney Plus or a Hulu drop. I forgot if I'd made this joke with you or someone else, but I made the joke that I feel like they would drop it the day that it was getting announced on, like, fucking Hulu or something. Oh, absolutely. And most people just pirate it anyways. Yeah, but anyway, so then with Ms. Marvel, I'm curious what they're going to do for her, especially just after coming from Captain Marvel. Yeah, differentiate that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see, but I'm intrigued. That's maybe not what I'm super excited for, but I'm intrigued to see how they handle the character and what they do with that character in the greater MCU. Yeah, just make it something interesting and not just, Captain Marvel 2. Yeah, but definitely the one I'm most excited for out of all the Disney Plus, counting the ones they said at Comic-Con, would probably be Moon Knight. Moon Knight. Because I'm surprised it's a Disney Plus. Yeah. Because Bob Iger said he wants Disney Plus to be very PG-13. Yeah. So I'm guessing they're going to PG-13 the character, but I'd rather them do more of a Deadpool type of thing and have him on Hulu. I like to think, like, maybe there's going to be, like, a section of Disney Plus that's like, kids, we're going to have, like, an ID scan on you to make sure you're, like, 17. Otherwise, you can't come here. And hello, Lakeithia Jones. But, yeah, so Moon Knight, I'm super excited for. And 2 of the casting rumors that have been going around for actors who could play Moon Knight are Andrew Garfield and get this, Shia LaBeouf. I would totally watch that. That's the only MCU character I'm like, put Shia in that role. Please. Put him in that role. Yeah. I was like... he would go all out on that character. He'd read all the comics. He'd drive himself crazy to be like the character. He'd walk to Walmart in the Moon Knight costume. He's like, hey, I'm Moon Knight. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, that would be the one role that you could cast Shia in for the MCU. I would totally watch that. Like, legit, if that is the official casting at some point, I would be like, you know what? I'll watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll totally watch this.
But yeah. And another thing is that it hasn't been officially confirmed, but it's been kind of heavily implied that it looks like, especially after Spider-Man leaving the MCU, that the villain in Black Panther 2 is going to be Namor.
Yeah, okay, so I have no idea who that is.
So Namor is essentially Marvel's Aquaman.
Okay.
So he's kind of almost an anti-hero. Sometimes he'll be more on the bad side. Sometimes he'll be more on the good side. He's more so a character of like, I am the king of Atlantis. I don't care about what problems you have in New York City. If it affects Atlantis, I'll be involved. But otherwise, I'm going to mind my own business.
It's more like an isolationist, basically.
Yes, which to be fair is what Wakanda was for the longest time. But
that's, yeah, like maybe contrast that.
A lot of the places this is coming from a story standpoint is that in Iron Man 2, there was a map on the background that showed Atlantis.
Yeah.
So just like Doctor Strange is something they've been setting up for a while. And then in Endgame, there's a line where I forget her name, but Black Panther's bodyguard is talking about an earthquake that happened in the location where Atlantis would be. And she takes a position of, it's in the middle of the ocean. We do nothing. That's how we handle it.
Yeah.
So after losing half your population in a snap, and then earthquake that takes the majority of whoever's left, and then Earth surface people knowing about it and doing nothing, you'd be pissed.
Probably, yeah.
So that's kind of the story thing behind what they could do for that. So
yeah,
I'd be curious to see it, especially because that would be the first. He's not really a Fox property. I think he's a character who's kind of both. But he's a good introduction to characters like the Fantastic Four and X-Men.
Okay, yeah.
Especially because he's regarded as, he's not really, but he's regarded as one of the first mutants.
Oh, okay.
So it could also be an introduction to mutants.
Yeah, maybe like kind of like slight segue into that, so it's not like awkward as, okay, where the fuck have these guys been for all this time?
I personally think Eternals is going to be where they introduce the mutant gene and X-Men and Celestials. Especially Galactus could totally be introduced through new Eternals. But yeah, I think that could be kind of cemented through Namor and Black Panther.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Also, so y'all, today is my birthday. I'm turning 11. Well, happy birthday! Thank you for spending part of your birthday watching this. It's much appreciated.
Hope you have a good birthday.
But yeah, so after that we have... Oh, so this is... It's more rumor, but some of the details I've heard about it have been intriguing. Is that apparently Kevin Feige and Marvel are considering the development of a Wolverine versus the Hulk project.
I remember you mentioned that like before we started this, and that was something that was really interesting to me because I remember the animated films that they did forever ago that were sort of like short little 35 to 45 minute things. One was like Hulk versus Thor and Hulk versus Wolverine, and I rewatched it recently and it was like, oh, there's all this story stuff I kind of forgot about with like setup for Wolverine, and I was thinking maybe this could be like the setup for Wolverine. Maybe it's like more or less kind of like a slight remake of that.
Apparently Kevin Feige thinks the same thing, but
oh shit,
it's one of the things that he's considering as a way to start transitioning mutants into the MCU, and it would be a way that they could establish Wolverine outside of the X-Men. It would be a way for them to bring in the Hulk in another project. From a legal standpoint, they couldn't call it Wolverine versus Hulk because of the Columbia situation. And then Project kind of implied that it could be a Disney Plus or it could be a film. But it's something to where Kevin Feige is currently considering it, which means maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But I find that interesting that that's one of the things they're considering. For introducing that character.
It's definitely an interesting choice,
because it would immediately show how powerful he is as a mutant going up against the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
Post Endgame, where it's the mind of Bruce Banner, not just an angry monster.
Oh yeah, shit, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, like it's not like mindless, violent Hulk. It's like calculating, still strong Hulk.
So the reason for why they'd fight would probably be different than in comics, and I assume the movie.
Probably, yeah.
But I'd still be interested to see what they do with that.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see.
And let me just kind of read comments here. The movie already happened. Y'all need to listen to... Don't know how to pronounce that song. It's about Mysterio, and it's pretty good. Interesting. Do y'all remember the Juggernaut bit? Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was... Fucking, they put a meme into a movie. I think that was probably one of the first instances of that back in Last Stand.
Mm-hmm.
The Juggernaut bitch thing that was going around for the longest time, and then they just put that in the movie. No one would care, and then everyone's like, what the fuck? Just why? Why?
And then the last piece of Marvel news that we're going to talk about is the fact that it was a rumor for a while, and then it got officially confirmed that Hailee Steinfeld is playing Kate Bishop in the new Hawkeye show.
That's cool. I like her as an actor.
So, I agree.
And
so, are you aware of the character Kate Bishop and the storyline they're going for the Hawkeye show?
No, I didn't even know there was a Hawkeye show.
So, basically, it's going to be a Disney Plus thing. The story they're going off is a series where Kate Bishop, who's kind of an up-and-comer vigilante-type character, Hawkeye takes her under his wing and basically trains her to be the new Hawkeye.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be a way for Jeremy Renner to kind of hang up the bow and arrow. Then Hailee Steinfeld would become basically the new Hawkeye of the MCU.
Sweet. Okay, I'd be down for that.
My hope for what they do with that is, with that, it would allow Hawkeye to retire. She can take on the mantle of Hawkeye. But in the series, he can basically still keep the persona of Ronin that he had in Endgame.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige said in this series we'll learn more of his time as Ronin. So I hope we see Ronin stuff in the series. But then also, if there's another Infinity War level event, Jeremy Renner can come back as Ronin, and we have Hawkeye and Ronin on screen.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd be down for that, honestly. Mm-hmm. That sounds like interesting for his development, but also I was kind of curious during Endgame, okay, so was that all he was doing for the entire time? Everyone was gone?
Yeah, so I'll be curious to learn about that. Because apparently he was just going around killing crime lords. But then the consequences of that post-Endgame seem like what it will be dealing with in the series of people coming after him and him training the new Hawkeye.
Yeah. I was thinking kind of basically MCU trying to do Batman.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. This now kind of excites me more for Hawkeye because her as an actress as a main kind of MCU character, hells yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just excited all around. And then is Wolverine coming as a replacement to Spider-Man? I think that could be kind of their goal.
Yeah.
It's to kind of be like, yeah, we lost Spider-Man, but look, Wolverine, ooh,
wow.
Fantastic Four, ooh, X-Men, Spider Who.
It's everyone just got massive amnesia, just yeah, I love that kid, Logan. They're just I think that's who it was, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. But yeah, so I think that's from a business standpoint what they're gonna try and be doing with that. Mm-hmm. Y'all ready for WandaVision? That show's gonna be weird, from what I hear.
All right, so I have no idea what the premise is. I've just seen promotional images, and it looks like a sitcom.
Yes, which I think is kind of the idea of they're going for more the House of M story from the comics, which is where Scarlet Witch more or less goes insane.
Okay.
And the idea, or at least more so, I guess what I'm going to say is more my theory as opposed to any other series I've heard, is that after the loss of her brother and now Vision, she's kind of just sad, and she basically is so powerful, she creates her own dimension with him, and it's kind of that sitcom 50s feel. And then that's kind of where she ends in the series. And then in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, he goes into that dimension, grabs her, and that's how they get connected in that film.
Okay. So basically it's like that Netflix show Maniac, but it's with MCU characters.
Probably. But I'm curious to see what they do with that. But yeah, Wolverine is a weak replacement for Spider-Man.
I'm fine with Logan.
I love Logan and Wolverine. I wish we wouldn't have to choose between having them,
that's more the situation rather than just Logan being a weak replacement. It's more we shouldn't have had to have a replacement to begin with, kind of thing. But
Anyway, so moving on from Marvel news to more actual movie news. We're still kind of starting off in the comic book realm, but Joker premiered at the Venice Film Festival.
Yes, Venice Film Festival now is doing its festival run, and it's TIFF, and it's going to go to the New York Film Festival later this month.
Okay, that's cool.
Which is really interesting, because it's the reception this film's getting is so fucking baffling to me. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, from advertisements, it was obvious that this wasn't going to be, just something that we would kind of see like with like Batman or the other DC stuff. It was sort of its own thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like so okay, so the weirdest thing was seeing this film winning Golden Lion, which was like essentially best film at the Venice Film Festival. It's like, to me at least, it's like thinking about like The Dark Knight winning the fucking Palme d'Or or something like that. It's so strange to me to think about that concept, but I guess like it's been getting a lot of really great reviews, but there's also been reviews of it that have been like very not a fan of it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be maybe controversial in the word, because that's, I think, in a way what it was going for, but more divisive.
Divisive is a better way to describe it. Yeah, I remember one review I think said it perfectly, is that this film is like a cinematic agent of chaos itself, both good and bad. So like once it gets released, I'm kind of gonna be both like excited and scared to see like internet reaction.
So will I. I'm personally so excited for it. After I heard all the stuff happening in Venice, I was watching interviews and reading reviews and all that stuff, and I'm very curious to see what they do with this film.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I'm really kind of a little bit worried about is just like I like what they're going for, but I've also heard that it tries to be a bit self-important with its message, and I'm just like, I don't know if Todd Phillips is the kind of person that could do that very well, but like Joaquin is there.
I was gonna say, I think maybe Todd Phillips isn't the person, but Joaquin might be.
Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping. And also, just the only other thing is that, so I've seen films that this film is obviously influenced by, like early Scorsese and King of Comedy. So I'm just hoping it's not those, but with extreme ultraviolence. I'm just hoping it's still its own thing rather than tries to be a complete imitation, which, from what I've heard, it's not. So I'm pretty fine with that, but it's still like kind of a worry, because it's fucking having Robert De Niro as the like lead comedian for that one scene was like, that's a cool reference, but that's really on the nose, you know. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
But anyway, and also in kind of more indie news, by the way, saw a comment about It Chapter 2, we'll get to it after this movie, is a movie that I saw last week, Peanut Butter Falcon.
And I really wanted to see that, and I'm surprised you saw it before me.
But yeah, so that's the new Shia LaBeouf, Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Johnson, actually.
Oh,
There's too many Dakotas.
Johnson. Yeah, the Dakotas mess me up.
I know.
Dakota Johnson. And Zach, do you know the last name?
I don't, but I know the actor that you're talking about.
But yeah, and right out of the bat, I'll say the casting was phenomenal. Like, this is probably the best Shia role I've seen him do in a long time. Not that there's a whole lot of amazing competition, but still.
Yeah.
Like, he took some of the weirdness from previous characters he's played, like Sam Witwicky, and kind of matured it.
Yeah.
To a point where I'm like, oh, that I could see that being an actual human being.
Yeah, like, it's a believability behind it.
It still has that idiot charisma that Sam Witwicky had, but it's like, oh, you're a more mature, believable person now.
Yeah, it's like give it time and age to the idiocy, and it's much more like, not as much like blind idiocy, but kind of like insecurity, kind of.
Yeah, it reveals more about the inner working of that character.
Yeah.
But I compare it to kind of oh brother, where art thou meets Little Miss Sunshine. It's kind of where my brain.
And when you told me that, I was like, that sounds like it'd be really good.
It's a very, very, very sweet film. Like, that's the word that popped in my mind while I was watching. It's like, I have a smile on my face because this is just the sweetest thing I've seen.
Yes. Give you like, sugar overdose. Yeah, and everything I've seen about it, like, looks really good, and I think it was at some film festivals beforehand, so obviously it was like, oh, I should check that out at some point.
Yeah.
And it's surprising it's getting, like, a wider release, because, like...
I know.
I was thinking, like, it would just be, like, the thing I would show at, like, well, if it were back at Tucson, like, the Loft or something like that for a little while, but it's been doing the rounds, and I'm like, that's really cool, because I like when independent films are able to sort of branch out of their... Yeah. Limited release to larger release.
And I think this film phenomenal for Shia's career. Because, you know, despite things he's done in his past.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him in a film again.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's a weird feeling. I'm like, good for you.
You're doing good out there. And, I mean, this isn't even the end of it. We got Honey Boy in November, which basically, and everybody I've heard said that this is like his role. This is the role for him that is probably going to be like the one he'll be remembered for.
Good for him.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm honestly happy hearing that.
He's coming back. He's doing it again.
The Shia resurgence.
The Shia-sans, as I like to call it.
But yeah, so that's Peanut Butter Falcon more or less. If it's showing where you are, I recommend seeing it personally. It's it's a really interesting film in its message and its execution.
Yeah. And check it out.
Yeah. So then, yes, It Chapter 2 is next. So let's start off saying our reactions to It Chapter 1 before we jump in.
All right.
Because I know that kind of formed a lot of my expectations.
And very much the same for me, honestly. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, It Chapter 1 wasn't a perfect movie, but I actually really enjoyed it more than I thought it would. It was more of a comedy than I expected it to be. It still had a lot of horror elements, but it was kind of more smart. Of course, there were kind of a lot of the jump scare type things, but it was, at least when I was watching it, kind of a message about the idea of fear.
Yeah, and like sort of just childhood trauma kind of stuff. Yeah,
and it was a weird feeling watching it for me in the theater, because I'd start out doing my normal horror stance, watching through my eyes, but by the end of it, I was like, screw you, Pennywise, I'm looking now.
Yeah, good progression, character progression.
Yeah, the character for me as a character, like.
Yeah. For me, like, it was also kind of a very similar situation. I was hearing about it. My only other like knowledge of it was just the TV miniseries, because I watched that like forever ago, and that was kind of it was sort of developmental for like clowns are pretty creepy now thinking about it, but also it wasn't something that aged particularly well.
Yeah.
But this was actually something that was like really surprisingly greatly like made as like a crowd pleasing horror film, because it was like it was horror that was sort of being able to be a mixture of like a haunted house kind of like spooky scares while also having good thematic kind of disturbing moments, and mixing in comedy too. Yeah, like it wasn't just one or the other. They kind of weaved into each other very nicely. Yeah. And also just the cast is so good. The cats are so good. It's like the thing that I think that's what made the film for most people was just that cast, because they have like the perfect chemistry together.
Exactly.
And it has some really interesting production design, and fucking love some of the cinematography in that, especially since the DOP is one of my current faves, I'd say, at the moment. But overall, like, it was something that, it's not perfect. Like, there's some dialogue here and there, and then there's like some moments that kind of drag on a little bit too long. And then there's just some kind of weird Stephen King isms in there. But, like, it was something I thoroughly, like, enjoyed almost all the way through.
Yeah, and it was a character piece. Yeah. Really, about all the kids.
Yeah, and, like, they were nicely developed. Except for Mike, but I'll get to that later. But, yeah, it was just something that's, like, both fun, but not, like, thematically dry either. It had stuff there to keep it interesting and much more fun. And even, like, some scares are genuinely really great. Like, I love the opening scene so much, because it's just, like, that building tension, just, like, the fucking, like... And I think placing in the 80s was kind of fitting, because it made me think of, like, the whole satanic panic sort of thing going on at that time, and it was just, like, maybe that was the point. Maybe it wasn't just for the nostalgia bait kind of stuff. But that's my thoughts on It Chapter 2. Or
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1, yeah.
So, now that we've kind of said our piece about It Chapter 1... what did you think of It Chapter 2?
Okay, so going in, I heard a lot of things. Like, there was a lot of comedy. There's a lot of, like, scares. It was very long. And I just kind of went into this not sure what to think, so I was kind of, like, more or less blank slate. Just only thing is impressions on the first one.
Yeah.
And honestly, full up, kind of hated it. Like, pretty massively hated it. And it wasn't even just like general story stuff. There was like little things that just irked the shit out of me. That was like it was like like when you're doing like a two-parter film, I feel like having some sort of consistency could help to keep it like interesting. But like the first film was so nice at weaving horror and comedy together, and then this was just like horror scene, comedy scene, character
very formulaic and structured.
It nothing felt like it flew in together or felt natural. It was just like like stacking blocks on top of one another. It was fucking disastrous at times, and the length, there was no reason for it to be like almost 3 hours long. Not a fucking single reason. There's so much shit you could have cut out. Like you know, experience as an editor, I was just watching this thinking, like, after watching the full thing by itself, just thinking of shots that were just like didn't add anything to the atmosphere or effect, scenes that were just going on for so fucking long. The scene, okay, so I won't spoil how this goes out, but this movie, the majority of the middle section is just character goes to a thing they remember, flashback,
I was gonna bring
scary cock tease moments, and then flashback ends, and then they just kind of leave.
Yeah,
over and over.
Very similar thoughts from me. I went in, I actually didn't really look at any reviews or anything. So I basically was going in just with my memory of it, chapter 1. And it started out, I was like, oh, this is interesting with the whole thing at the beginning, that first scene at the fair.
Yeah.
That I was on board with, especially with Pennywise's reveal there. I was like, oh, okay, I can get on board with that. That feeling quickly went away, though. I still feel that opening scene was the scariest part of the movie. But anyway, yeah, like you said, it's very structured to the point where that same sequence that you described, it's very much so for each character. They go through this whole cycle of go to place, flashback to when they're scared, or as a kid, and when they were scared as a kid, back to modern day, they get scared that same exact way and then leave.
Yeah.
For each character, copy paste to where as soon as it cut to that second character, I was like, oh, we're doing it for all these? I
had that sinking feeling after, like, the second character had a similar thing. It's like, oh, wait, no, we're not doing this. No,
and
no way.
It was so structured out, I could predict every beat of it.
Fucking legit same, honestly. Like, there was just a point where, like, it was like the horror equivalent of just, like, repeatedly, like, going up to someone who can't see you behind you, just going, like, behind their ear. It was just like, oh, well, I guess it's scary, I guess. Okay, wow, he's calling him, ooh, silly boy, haha, funny, scary, wow.
And this film had fantastic cast. Like, you have James McAvoy, Bill Hader, who really acted his ass off.
Bill Hader was, carried this movie, even if it was to no avail. That's what I feel. You
really notice the difference of the chemistry between the kids and the adults. The only scene where I felt the adults had it was the dinner scene. All the other scenes, it was very dry. They didn't have that same back and forth as when the kids talk together. It's very like, I relate to these kids, whereas with the adults, it's like, they're just people who are here doing a thing.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be fine if they set that up as like what they're trying to go for to begin with, but then they have the dinner scene. I'm just like, okay, so they're supposed to be like still pretty decently connected with one another, and then the rest of the movie is just them kind of like awkwardly fumbling around like relations. Like, I won't spoil like who it is, but like there's characters that's like, oh, have deep feelings for each other, and then I'm just like, are you sure? Are you sure that wasn't just like the childhood thing? Because you don't feel like you are.
Yeah, and it's like, also, my understanding after seeing the first It was, so in this movie we got all the kids scenes, and then the second part will be all the adult scenes. But no, we still got flashbacks to the kids. So I'm here wondering what was the point.
And it feels, like it just feels so forced. And it sucks because like the kids by themselves are fine, but like the thing that made it work was them as a group and their interactions, whereas this film is like individual scenes of them just stuff by themselves, and some of them worked. Like, I love Richie's scene and kind of his development there, because like, I guess on one hand, like, it feels a bit forced considering they didn't really set anything about that up in the first film, but at least they did it here, and it was like nicely, like they let it run its course through like an arc.
Yeah.
Whereas other characters are just sort of like just the same thing that you had from the first film, except kind of again.
Yeah, and it's just, why? Like you said, it was 3 hours long.
3 hours?
It had no reason to be that long.
No
like,
fucking reason.
Endgame, it was 3 hours long, but you understood it. It was a huge thing. It was trying to pay off 22 movies.
Yeah,
This was like Endgame if they put it out after Iron Man.
Basically, exactly like that. That's exactly like what it was, and it's just, and yeah, the only scene where I felt like genuinely like the effect that I felt like it was trying to go for was, it's kind of near the end. It's a scene at a river, and I won't spoil anything after that. That was the only moment where it's like, okay, I feel like this was going, this actually is genuinely effective, and I feel like most of that was because of Bill Hader.
Yeah.
But then it goes on for more. For more. And it's just like, fucking just end it there.
There was so much it could have cut out. There was even a whole arc that, as far as I know, wasn't in the book or miniseries, that it just went through and they're like, but that's not a big deal. Let's just do this instead.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Well, what was the past hour and a half then?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like, they just completely just, like, forgot it even existed. And you know what's the funniest fucking thing to me? This movie is 3 hours long, but Mike gets like literally no character development whatsoever. His whole purpose is to just be like ghost spirit guide and be like, here's everything that's going on in Derry and what you should do. Whoops.
Also, and this isn't a spoiler because they did nothing with it. It plants seeds like, oh, but do they know your secret and things like that? And it's like, there's no. Do they know the truth? And it's like,
no, because there isn't.
Yeah, it's like.
Anything
there are a lot of things where it was like Pennywise would kind of be like, ooh, mess with the group and try and reveal this thing. It's like, actually, no, that wasn't anything. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's like, that didn't lead to anything. You're just kind of like being like, ooh, mysterious, wow.
Which, I mean, scenes with Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, he killed it. There wasn't a whole lot of him as Penny. I felt like the first It Chapter 2, you saw him shine so much more as Pennywise.
Yeah, like he had more opportunities to shine, I'd say.
Whereas this one, him at the end, he has no shine at all.
Oh my god. Okay.
And
they have that joke throughout the whole film about like with Bill being like, oh, the movie that you're writing has a shitty ending. And I didn't read the book, but I remember the ending of the series as kind of like, are they going to do something new with the ending? Are they going to, like, change it up because everyone hated it? And then it was like, nope. Nope.
Oh, yeah, and in the miniseries, Bill's wife was a character, whereas this...
She's just kind of there.
Shows up once.
One scene, and then that's it. And I was kind of like, oh, but, like, she was actually kind of interesting as a character.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's
like the film they wanted to make was... like, this kind of interesting, like, horror film about, like, childhood trauma and how to overcome it, and then they made edgy Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then there's just tiny things that bug the shit out of me, like the fucking cinematography.
Well, and the main thing for me was that entire last act, there's this blue strobe that was pointless. It was, in my opinion, I was watching, like, why is there a blue strobe? And the only thing that I could come up with was, oh, because the shot wouldn't be interesting enough if there wasn't a strobing light.
Exactly, and like then like some of the lighting is so bland to look at, and I think about like the first It with like the opening scene with the with like the sewer and like the lighting on that is just so perfect, and then I look at this and it's just like, oh. Okay.
Well, and there are little special effects, like how the fact that Pennywise's face is covered in darkness, but his eyes are shining.
Yeah, exactly. That's so clever.
There wasn't anything like that in this one.
There wasn't any clever kind of things that they did like that, like with VFX and just lighting and cinematography and all that point. And also, this is kind of a color grading thing, so I don't know how much anybody cares about it, but like, the way that Chapter 1 had this sort of like desaturated kind of bluish gray kind of tone to it, and this one has like a very orangish look to it that's very more like, I can only describe it as it looks more like a Marvel film than It, and it just threw me to a loop like almost for the entire film.
Well, and there was a moment where I really noticed the color grading of it looked kind of standard, but then halfway through the shot it transformed the color grading into something that I've seen in a tutorial for like, here's some wacky LUTs you can throw on.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I was walking, I was like, and then it disappeared, and I was like,
what's the point?
Did the colorist just misclick on the keyboard and accidentally do that? Because there was no reason for that to happen, what just happened.
Because color changes are spooky.
Except the color that changed, you're like, ooh, neon blue.
I've seen The Aviator.
I was like, what? Okay. That was the main moment where I looked at the color grade and was like, that was a bizarre choice.
It was just like, because I remember how much the first one looked so good, it was just like a complete like even things like interior shots, like where they're in that Chinese restaurant and you compare it to like other scenes from It Chapter 1, is like so much dynamic and like naturalistic look, and this one was like, where's all this light coming from? It's nighttime.
But yeah, so you hated it.
Basically. I hated it with burning passion. Yeah.
I thought it was okay, but compared to the first it's you can't. It's one of those things where I totally watch the first It and have it on my video collection type of thing. Whereas It Chapter 2, maybe I'd watch part of it if it were on TV, but I wouldn't be like, oh, you know what seemed like a great movie to watch tonight? It Chapter 2.
Yeah.
It Chapter 1, sure, I'd do that with.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if I wanted, to feel the full It story, maybe I'd watch them back to back and lose 5 hours of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think I'd ever watch just It Chapter 2.
Yeah, honestly, like, and it's kind of good that It Chapter 1 basically has nothing much in terms of setup for another film, because then I don't have to think about Chapter 2 all that much.
Mentally, I can just be like, oh yeah, and Pennywise, when he went into the well, he died.
Yeah, like, that's just
boom, that's it.
It's just think about as like scary Goonies, and then you can kind of go about your day. Whereas this one it forces you to compare the two and then fails to do so.
Yeah, so that was It Chapter 2. Our talk about it. Let's see, did we miss much in the chat? What do you think about Pennywise the Dancing Clown? I wish we saw more of Bill Skarsgård doing dancing clown stuff. Like, there's no moment like in the first one when he waves the hand and has the bloody mouth.
Oh, yeah,
or does the dance where it's like, it's scary, but he's a fucking crazy clown.
Yeah, he's just kind of dancing, and it's like, it's both kind of funny but like still kind of unnerving, I guess.
Yeah, well, especially because how his head stays stationary, but the legs in background.
I love that
little
effect.
Things like that to where it's like, it's comedic, but it's still like, oh, that's off-putting.
Yeah.
There weren't really moments like that.
There's more Pennywise the singing clown because of that one scene.
So, yeah. Let's see.
But, yeah, more or less my biggest takeaway is it not good, but Bill Hader is the best thing about it.
I absolutely agree. Also, some of the more decent moments in the movie trailer. It was another one of those situations.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I saw a scene coming up and I was like, oh, I've seen the trailer. I know how this ends. Like with some kids in the movie where it's like, in the trailer, I know exactly how this ends. There's no tension here.
Yeah, and that's kind of why people should just like make trailers as a separate thing from the movie itself. Like make it like a random scene that doesn't actually happen.
Well, I think part of the problem is that it is separate, as in the people who make the trailers just get the footage and on their own are like, let's put that in. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's put that in. Let's throw that in. It's like
the directors don't really get to decide on that much.
So, yeah, It Chapter 2. But moving on, we have Jojo Rabbits.
All right, yeah, it's actually just Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, it's Jojo Rabbit. Let me.
I didn't.
I have it in there. It is Jojo. Oh no, I don't. Never mind.
I didn't want to sound like a
Jojo
actually
Rabbit
kind of person, but like that's how it's actually.
No, thank you for the correction. Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, Jojo Rabbit. This is something I've actually been very excited about. Even from the announcement when people didn't know fully what this was going to be. And for one, it's just because I love Taika Waititi's work so much. Like, even stuff like I didn't like at first watch, like Thor Ragnarok, grew so much on me on like rewatch. And I'm just very much excited about this because, like, what a fucking weird concept. This is totally something he would make. Fucking and it's just interesting to me some of the reception. Some of it has been kind of like, it was mixed at first, but like more reviews are actually coming out and it's getting kind of a clear picture of no, people like it. It's just there's some kind of questions on the sort of like validity of the kind of film it is, with dealing with World War II Nazism and that sort of thing, and him playing as Hitler, and that that's weird, but like everyone's getting
very Taika Waititi.
It's very Taika Waititi, but like everyone's getting a bit like up in arms about it being, it's like making fun of Nazism and whatnot. I don't know if this is such a good idea, and it makes me think like, has nobody seen Mel Brooks movies? Has nobody seen a single Mel Brooks film at all? Because this is pretty tame in comparison to what he did.
Well, and then understanding his thought process, and then some thought process I've seen echoed through the internet, is the idea of, no, we should make fun of Nazis because they want to be taken seriously.
It's yeah, like, that's the thing, is, like, there have been some films that have attacked the idea of, like, fascism as, like, you know, like American History X, but, like, it's still kind of been appropriated because of the imagery that they have, and sort of, you know, it's still appealing in some way. Whereas, like, example with, like, this film, or, like, the Springtime for Hitler scene and The Producers, is, like, no, it makes it look, like, completely idiotic, and so it's sort of, I like the phrase, removing that kind of posthumous power of, like, what that ideology had.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really excited about this, because that looks exactly like what he's going for with this. And I remember I love the fact that when someone asked why he was playing Hitler in the film, and he said, what better way to play Hitler than have a Polynesian Jewish man play him in a completely unconvincing way.
Right?
And I was just like, that like, even for some of the kind of reception about it that it's getting, like, that still has me, like, pretty excited for it. Honestly, I'm more certain, even though they're kind of getting similar sort of mixed reception in some areas, I have more confidence in it than, like, Joker, I'd say, in conveying its message properly. We'll have to see how that goes, of course, like, in October, since I think they're coming out even on the same weekend, actually.
Oh, really?
So it's going to be an interesting weekend, to say the least, for the film community. But, like, I'm thoroughly excited for it, and also just everything I've seen in the trailers, like, I'm very, very excited for it.
Yeah.
And it's just really, yeah, like, I'm really excited for it. Just Taika Waititi is something I'll always be down with now, honestly.
Yeah, which I knew nothing about this movie until I saw the trailer. And after that, I was like, oh, I'm on board with this. And I started watching interviews and stuff, and hearing his thought process behind it, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's great, because it was like, people were thinking, like, Taika was trying to go for the Oscars or doing a World War II movie, because at some point people didn't realize that, like, it was a comedy, like, it was just Taika Waititi making a World War II film, and people were thinking, oh, he's gonna sell out and try to go for, you know, like, the Prestige or whatever, and then he makes this, and everyone's like, oh, okay, that sounds about right. But yeah, that's just something I'm so excited for, and again, like, it's only been trailers that I've seen so far, so it's not the full product, but, like, everything about it is like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And I think he'll actually do it well, like, do his message well, because, like, I trust him probably more than, like, I would most comedy directors with this kind of material. Like,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because freaking, also, now thinking about it, I've basically seen, like, all of his films, and I think there's actually, like, a joke about Nazis in every single one of his films, now thinking about it. or at least some kind of allusion to it now, because I think there's something like that in Thor Ragnarok. I know there was one in Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People, but I don't know if there was anything else like that.
Interesting.
But I guess it's just a joke he likes to make a lot.
Well, next on the list is El Camino. I believe the full title is something like El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, or The Breaking Bad movie, or something. But
yeah, or a Netflix original or something like that. But yeah, El Camino.
So, have you seen the trailer for it?
I have. I saw the teaser that there was about. And it was, you know.
That's what I was referencing.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there's more stuff that came out.
Not really that I'm aware of.
Okay, cool. It was really interesting though. Like, I wonder what Netflix had to do to be able to get, like I don't know if AMC was, like, making the movie first and then Netflix got it, or if it was, like, Netflix was, like, pitching an idea to AMC and be like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea, or what that would be. But yeah, like, I
also see this as something as either whether they pitched it or someone else pitched it and started developing it, they saw it or thought of it and were like, throw all your money at it. We need something to compete with Disney Plus.
Yeah, like, we just need we're more or less, like, we can only fight Disney with the adult content stuff that we have, so we should just go all out. And I mean, I'd say that's a good tactic, honestly, because freaking Breaking Bad was, like, a phenomenon when it came out. Like, it was right before Game of Thrones, so it was very much like, it was that for that time. And I have only watched the first season. I need to watch the rest of it. But, like, it's cool to kind of see, like, basically the continuation of Jesse Pinkman and seeing where he goes.
Definitely. And I think this is the way to handle any kind of Breaking Bad sequel type of thing. I mean, you have Better Call Saul, but this I feel more confident about of like, ooh, I'm interested in this part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, where does that character go? Like, because I mean, like, I haven't seen the full ending, but I know about it. So it's just like, where does he go after like all that craziness within the last season? And that could and I feel like that could cover a film in and of itself, which it seems like it's going to try to do. And that'll be interesting to see like how that goes, because you know it's a pretty beloved series, so I'm seeing like if it'll try to be something a bit more subversive, or if it'll be kind of more or less what we think it will be. We'll see, I guess. Yeah,
which I will say, if it's good, Breaking Bad's reputation will be unlike pretty much any other franchise.
More or less. It's got like good series, good movie.
Yeah, even like Star Wars has pretty much by this point like an equal amount of good movies and bad movies.
Yeah. And spin-off stuff and whatnot.
So I'm optimistic for it.
Yeah.
I'm interested by the premise. It will just have to depend on the execution.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, next is Watchmen, which another still on the streaming service side of things. HBO put out kind of a Watchmen featurette.
Yeah.
Did you see it by chance?
I did not, but I saw the trailers that were coming out for it. Also, I don't know if I told you about this, but at some point recently I did actually watch Watchmen, the ultimate cut, not the theatrical cut.
With the what's the pirate kind of storyline, the animated parts.
Yeah, like with that stuff.
What's the name of that part? The black something or the dark?
I can't remember exactly. I know it was more or less just kind of like an exposition dump sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I know what you're referring to. Though.
But
yeah.
Anyway, so they put out kind of a featurette along with the teasers and stuff, and the featurette is more so just kind of the director and behind the scenes production people talking about the project with unseen footage over it and that type of stuff. And I'm very intrigued because it definitely seems it's absolutely a sequel to the Watchmen story, which this basically was the confirmation of that. That's cool. Also kind of they revealed some of the ways as society has evolved to where there was a terrorist organization that started presumably after the notes from Rorschach got leaked out. Kind of the screw the power we believe Rorschach type of group.
I actually really like that concept because I was like that. I could definitely see that in that universe being like a thing that happens where it's just like suddenly there's like a Rorschach kind of uprising cult basically.
Yeah, and then in response to that, the police started wearing masks for the same reason vigilantes do, to protect their identity from the Rorschach group.
It was kind of fun duality there.
But definitely looks like there's going to be a lot of references to the comics, like there's something involving a squid octopus in the footage.
Yeah, I forgot. I've read the comics and I know like what that is in reference to, and it's that'll be interesting.
And like you see Jeremy Irons eating a cake that has the same color scheme. But like little things like that, we see Silk Spectre in the footage. I don't know if it's accurate, but in the footage she says she's FBI. I don't know if that's true, but could be an interesting way. And I'm curious to see what they do with that character. But something I heard someone else point out that I didn't even realize is that she's going by her father's last name, her father being the comedian, last name.
Interesting.
But that also means that odds are she didn't end up with Owlman.
Oh, damn.
So I'm interested to see all the like little Watchmen nods, because that also means in the sequel, presumably, Manhattan's still on Mars.
Oh shit! Yeah, he probably is. Like, what the fuck is he doing up there now?
Is the show gonna show anything that he's done on Mars for the past however many years it took Jeremy Irons to age?
Yeah, I'm really hoping they don't like just kind of be like refer to Rorschach but never show him and be like, yeah, I guess that was a thing that happened.
But
and then never like go into like detail of like what the fuck is he doing on Mars right now?
But yeah, so and then we see Owlman's ship doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious about that, but as a Watchmen fan, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm really interested because it's definitely like something that's very new approach rather than just
It's unlike Game of Thrones. It's not like it's based on the stories from the comics. It's a new story, so I'm curious to see what the writers do with it.
Yeah, I am too, honestly, because I forget who's working on it specifically, but I know there's some really interesting people behind both behind the camera and doing like the script work on it. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. I'll probably check it out when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. And then, did you have thoughts on the ultimate cut of Watchmen?
Well, I mean, it was my first experience watching Watchmen by itself.
Oh, okay.
And I had read the comic beforehand, so like it's one of those things where it's like you can kind of compare it to the comic and the film. Mm-hmm. Gonna say I'm not really a fan. It's in I think most of it is just the Zack Snyderisms, like just being so specifically frame wise to a moment within the comic that it got a little distracting for me, and it didn't feel like it was trying to be its own thing at times. And when it did, it was like the weirdest things, like fucking Rorschach talking to that one character, like the
it's not Malekith. It's I know who you're talking about, though. I think
the character that, like, in the book he doesn't really do anything with. Like, afterwards he's sort of like, oh, you're a worthless piece of garbage. Yeah. But in the movie, he just fucking like cleaves him super violently, and I'm just
gotcha.
I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and then maybe I had the luxury of I read not all but majority of the comic after I saw the movie. So I saw the movie and then was like, oh, that's interesting. I read the comics, like, whoa, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah. Like, you get, like, the holy shit, it's, like, the same shot, where, for me, just reading the comic, it's like, okay, it's the same shot. There's some cool moments I like. I love the montage with Dr. Manhattan kind of reevaluating, basically, like, his existence, and that moment is just, like, really powerful stuff, probably some of the best stuff Zack Snyder's done. But there's other moments that just, like, there's a lot of great subtlety within the comic, even if it was a bit, like, hammy at times, but, like, the movie hams that up to the max, and in some ways I'm just kind of like, okay.
That's fair.
It's like, it has, it's an experimental take for a superhero film, I'll say that, but it's, like, not sure if it's something I necessarily got a lot out of.
Yep. And also, Dreadlord, good night, everyone. I guess they're taking off. Have a good one, man. Thanks for joining us for as long as you did.
Sleep well, my boy.
All right, so next on the list is The Mandalorian on Disney+.
That's something I'm very excited about, just because of some of the people in the cast, and just because I kind of like this concept of it's just kind of like bounty hunting sort of stuff in Star Wars, and it's like I like the sort of disconnected from anything big within the Star Wars canon. It's just like little sort of unimportant individual stuff.
Yeah, I'm optimistic for it, but I will say I'm definitely going in with low expectations, so hopefully that works out. But yeah, I'm kind of just going in very open-minded to see, like, I'm curious.
Yeah. One thing that keeps me excited is just the fact that Werner Herzog is in it, who's basically, he's like the craziest fucking like old-time German film director ever, and he's in Star Wars now, and it's so weird. He's made fucking films where, like, he had his cast and crew, like, lug an entire, like, 10-ton ship across, like, a mountainscape. And now he, like, does cameos in Rick and Morty and is in Star Wars now. And someone made the joke of they should have, before the episode, I'm Werner Herzog, and you're watching Disney Channel. And then does the thing. But I'm interested. I understand a lot of skepticism, and I just think it'll be fun, you know? It'll be a fun kind of venture, and I like... And since it's, like, basically, like, TV quality stuff, it actually looks really impressive, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Visually and such. And so I'm excited, at least, for that, to see.
And I'll say, I'm thinking I'm definitely more excited for The Mandalorian than I am the next thing we're talking about, which is Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker.
Fair enough. That's understandable.
So, especially after this last trailer we got, I was very much so like, I didn't really care before. Now I really, really don't care. Like,
That's fair. I don't know if I saw what the new trailer was.
So the most recent one was the one where the first half of it's basically clips from old Star Wars movies.
Okay.
And then it cut to establishing shot. Ooh, look, they're on this planet. What planet is it? You'll find out. Oh, look, another planet. Oh, Rey and Kylo fighting in the ocean. Whoa. And then Rey with the lightsaber, the red.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of like... what the fuck is that gonna be? What is that gonna be?
Yeah,
like, I have no clue.
I'll say, when I was doing my trailer reaction, I took it very face value because I don't have any clue what they're doing with the Rey character, and I feel like they don't either. And it's to the point where it's like, I feel like if they set it up better, that moment could have been a more, what? Oh my gosh, it's believable, but that's the route I would expect. Now it feels like they're coin flipping her character every 30 minutes.
It's just like Mad Lib's character development.
Yeah, to where it's like, there's just so much all over the place with her character to where it's like, I don't know, and at this point I don't really care what she does.
That's fair. I'm interested to see why that's there. I don't know, maybe, like, at this point, like, it's weird. Like, I haven't been big into Star Wars all that much, but I'm actually kind of invested in the new trilogy. Mm-hmm. So, like, it seems very dumb, even to me. But, like, I'm kind of willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and see where this goes. Because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a major development, or maybe they're just, like, fucking with us.
Well, in the other theory, I took it more face value. The other theory, and I think the more prevailing one, is that it's kind of a premonition dream sequence type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
in which case, what a fuck you to put that in a trailer.
You know what? What a power move, though. What a fucking power move to be like, oh, you thought this character was going to turn, but nah.
But it's to the point, though, where, yeah, I could believe it. Not because they set up her character to be like, that's ooh, fair, she's on the cusp, but to where it's like, I don't know what you're doing with her, so sure, I believe that. Yeah, I guess.
That's understandable. Yeah, the character kind of has been sort of, like, more or less kind of molding all over the place in some areas.
Yeah, and also, what a fuck you to Rian Johnson if she did become a Sith, and then Last Jedi is called Last Jedi. It's like, don't worry, there's hope in the galaxy, because a Jedi remains, and the next movie is like, oh, I'm a Sith now, so, oops.
My favorite joke that I saw was someone made a joke tweet, was like, Rey saying, like, I need to respect Luke's wishes by becoming the next Jedi. Episode 9, Luke says, am I just a joke to you?
Yeah, so I don't really know, and I think the main thing that has bugged me about this trilogy, that is the sequels, is it's so transparent that it wasn't planned out from the start. Yeah. I think that's my biggest problem with it.
That's honestly very, actually fair, and the more I think about it, is kind of an issue, even if I like the movies more individually than I do as, like, a whole at the moment.
Yeah, which that might be where my brain's coming from, is I see it as the whole, kind of what the original trilogy did is in Act 1, 2, and 3 with each film.
They were deliberately planned out, even if, like, the first one, like, he wasn't sure if they were going to make 2 more movies, but he deliberately had a full structure in mind.
Yeah. Where, like, I would have loved it if JJ, some other writers, Rian Johnson, sat down and they had, like, 6 months or so to plan out the whole trilogy.
Fucking, like, if you're making a Star Wars trilogy, so, like, even if, like, so far I've been enjoying it, I kind of would be like, dude, that's not a good idea to just go at it as you're going along, you know? That's not a good idea. Because you don't know how many times those have failed miserably by the third act.
Yeah, so it's also going to be interesting. I don't know if it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see how J.J. Abrams tries to take the stuff that Rian Johnson did in 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I felt personally watching 8, after 7, J.J. set up some stuff, Rian Johnson was like, he didn't tell me what you want to do with it. I want to tell this story. I'm just going to say I don't care about that. I don't care about that. And I don't care about that. So I'm going to do this story.
And that's why I think they work so much better now individually, now I think about it, because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So Rian Johnson was like, I'm just going to make a good Star Wars movie by itself with interesting thematic development, but, like, I don't know where this is going, so...
But then if 9, JJ just undoes 8 and goes back to 7 stuff, what is this trilogy?
It's it's not an arc, it's a circle.
Yeah, so I'm personally not very excited for 9. I'll probably see it. I don't even know if I'll see it opening weekend, though.
I'll watch it and I'll give you an update.
That would be good. I'd appreciate that then.
I'll be your wingman on the should not or should.
But anyway, so now moving back to some kind of DC stuff, we have Birds of Prey. Which, have you seen the stuff for Birds of Prey?
I think I saw some of the trailer stuff, and I saw that weird thing before It Chapter 2.
Yeah.
That was okay.
So, I'm going to be honest. I was more excited for Birds of Prey when they were early in development and announced what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
Having seen stuff for it, it looks almost fan-made.
I guess, yeah. That's fair.
I don't know. And maybe that's just the stylistic approach they're taking with it. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't have a good grasp of what they're doing with the movie.
Yeah. It seems at least a little bit more interesting than what they had with, like, the first Suicide Squad or something like that. But I'm just still, like, not on board with that aesthetic at all. And, like, maybe it'll be something... It looks like it'll at least have something much more interesting. And
I'm hoping, especially with Ewan McGregor in it as Black Mask, like that, I'm like, that's the one thing, honestly, where I'm like, I will probably see that movie just for Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
In a DC movie.
That's pretty good, honestly. That, too. I like some of the technical people that they have on it, like, God. I mean, he shot Venom, but he's shot a lot of really good stuff. It was Matthew Libatique who shot, like... He's done a lot of, like, indie stuff and some stuff. Like, he actually shot the first Iron Man, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot he did that. And mainly because he's mostly known for, like, 16mm, like, depressing art house films. And then, you know, it's like, I'm going to do Iron Man. But, like, he's also doing this, and I feel like cinematography in Suicide Squad was, like, just disgusting. And so I'm very much excited that they actually have someone has a good grasp on lighting, which Suicide Squad didn't have at all. But I have more faith in it than I did Suicide Squad now, thinking about it. But, you know, we'll see how that goes. I'll see how much that leverage stays.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, regardless, Margot Robbie's going to be good in it.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor will be good in it. I don't know who's Huntress in Black Canary.
I know there's like Mary Elizabeth Winstead's and one of the characters in it. I don't know who anybody else is, though.
Okay. But from an acting standpoint, I'm sure, if nothing else, they're going to have fun and that will come through.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I'm intrigued, I'll say. But then the other part of DC news is that just recently, James Gunn announced the cast of his new Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, boy.
Which I would say I've seen a lot of confusion online, and I'm also confused of what this movie is. James Gunn has kind of implied it's almost a reboot of Suicide Squad and less of a sequel.
I'm fine with that.
Which, I'm fine with as well. But I definitely think there's going to be a lot of clearing up of things in the first trailer that James Gunn will have to do of like, no, this movie is supposed to be blank.
Yeah, like, this isn't a sequel, this is a different... This is basically, like, they shouldn't have had to have done this, but, like, it was a second draft.
Well, and of all people, James Gunn is the person I'm most confident with doing a Suicide Squad movie.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, he should have been the kind of person that they got on board, not David Ayer. Yeah,
which, I mean, to be fair, I think they only got him on board because Disney fired him. So they just swept him up.
Yeah,
and took him away.
It was essentially like when the moment like Disney fired him, they both sides realized, oh, actually we kind of messed up because this was not a good idea. DC was like, I'ma take this yoink.
And then you can name some people off of here that you want, but I definitely am excited. I'm curious to see Jai Courtney in it again.
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion, I wonder who he's gonna play in it.
I'm excited for that too, honestly. Okay, I don't remember that. I fucking forgot Pete Davidson was in this.
Yep, Pete Davidson was announced. Got Sean Gunn, John Cena. See who else? Taika Waititi. I was super excited for.
I'm excited to see who he plays. I remember
hearing the rumors about James Gunn approaching him for that, and was like, "Ooh, that would be cool." But then, of course, Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, I remember hearing. Viola Davis, I'm interested to see her in this.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to do her kind of the same or change her up a little bit.
Exactly, because especially if it is more of a reboot than anything else. Like, kind of an interesting choice of, like, it's almost like the Bumblebee movie, to where it's like, it's kind of a reboot, but it's also kind of not. Like,
yeah, it's like it's a reboot in the areas that we care about.
And you can tell that Michael Rooker likes James Gunn, considering he's in this as well.
I forgot Michael Rooker. The perfect pairing of actor and director.
Yeah.
Also, fucking Peter Capaldi is in that too. I didn't even realize that. I'm interested to see like who he plays in this.
Yeah, all these characters. There's very few people where I'm like, oh, that's gonna be that person. That's gonna be that person.
John Cena's in it too.
Which it was very surface level, but I saw he did fine in Bumblebee. So if he plays another one of those types of characters, to where it's like, military man.
Yeah, I heard he was very good in blockers.
And especially if James Gunn does more of a comedic route like he did in Guardians, I'm sure John Cena can find little gems.
Yeah, I feel like he knows how to do like comedy.
And Pete Davidson.
Yeah, like I'm so like, what an interesting choice.
No matter what the script is like, he's gonna have the time of his life making this film.
Probably, yeah.
Like he'll find little moments and be like, "Oh, I'll act the fuck out of that." Okay.
Just go all out.
Like he'll. I'm guessing I could be wrong about this. I could see any scene with him in it being like, "Okay, so I know you planned all this stuff. I'm just gonna do my own thing and do this."
He just kind of fucks around like while everyone's trying to get like an established.
He'll break the fourth wall when it's not in his character to break the fourth wall and stuff. Like he'll basically be doing a stand-up act in the middle of a scene.
Pete Davidson is the narrator, or something like that.
But yeah, so again, of all the people to do Suicide Squad movie, I think I'm curious to see what James Gunn does with it.
Yeah. It'll be definitely like something that I feel like will be much more visually interesting and like tonally consistent with what we should get from this.
Especially because I personally interpreted Suicide Squad of DC trying to be like, ooh, let's make a more stylized Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's
now you have the actual guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's more or less Guardians of the Galaxy, but with like grunge aesthetics rather than like
pop
80s. And I mean, like, I could see him doing it. I mean, fucking James Gunn made Slither, and that was basically like grunge aesthetic.
But anyway, so then kind of some of the last stuff we have to talk about are some gaming news things, which, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to talk about some of these things, so maybe we'll go through it unless you do. Man of Medan, are you familiar with that game?
I have no idea.
So it's by the same people who made Until Dawn. Do you remember when that game came out?
Oh, shit, yeah.
So it's their new game.
Interesting.
And I've actually seen the entire playthrough of it, and I actually enjoyed Until Dawn a lot. It was very kind of campy, but still had some scare to it, and I liked the butterfly effect aspect of it.
It was a better David Cage game.
Yeah. Man of Medan is fine. It's very short, first off. I think it's like a 3-hour game.
I hope it's the pricing of it is worth the investment.
I actually don't know if it is or not. But kind of what it implies is that, do you remember how in Until Dawn there was that therapist, psychologist type character who every once in a while would cut back to?
Yeah.
In this game, it's basically a guy who's supposed to be the storyteller.
Oh, okay.
Of kind of the universe. And kind of, I think what it implies is from the games moving forward, you'll build a relationship with that character.
Okay, cool.
And one thing that I'm hoping for that I've seen online is that since it is so short and they can have a consistent narrator, is that they'll basically just release more games as DLC to this game.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I don't know. It's interesting. The game itself, I thought was okay. It wasn't incredible, but I thought I was more attached to the Until Dawn characters because they were so, like, they were cliche, but to the point where they had very outspoken personalities.
Yeah.
And you could latch onto those personalities. Be like, she's the bitch, she's the whatever, he's the smart guy, he's the jerk.
Yeah. You have, like, characters that you could either, like, have fun with or at least empathize with, and then there's ones who are just like, oh, I don't like you, but they're interesting at least.
Yeah, but you could have that, like, oh, I don't like that character type of thing. Whereas this character, there's basically, I think, it's 5 characters who are all more kind of flatlined. They have little kind of, he's the brains, he's kind of muscly, he's kind of the cocky, arrogant guy.
Yeah.
But it's all more that he's kind of blank.
It's just sort of more or less blank slate with, like, some defining attributes.
Yeah, whereas I actually really liked how over the top the
Until
Dawn
every 80s cliche kind of compacted into a character and just, like, let loose.
So I think it's a fine game. The main thing I enjoyed in it was actually the plot twist they have in the game, to where it's kind of the idea of the first game had the Wendigos. This game doesn't really have anything like the Wendigos. It has a different kind of propulsion for the scares that I find interesting. I prefer the Wendigo idea, but this is a little bit more grounded in reality while still kind of using supernatural things.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was fine. It's nothing too spectacular though. But I'm glad to see the people who made Until Dawn doing another game.
Yeah, I'm too, because like, essentially, Until Dawn was kind of going after a trend that, like, at that time wasn't working very well. It was, like, super very cinematic stylized, like, discussion characters games where you kind of, like, had actions that had consequences, like Life is Strange, David Cage, that sort of thing. None of them were very good, but like that one was actually fun because it knew how to be like a little bit self-aware of itself, and I feel like they know what they have, so they can. I feel like maybe this might not be as good, but still somewhat. It's somewhat of the same thing, but a bit more kind of like stripped back, I guess.
And it's also a game where I could totally see, like, I personally prefer Until Dawn. I could totally see people being like, yeah, I actually prefer Man of Medan because of blank, blank, and blank. And I'd be like, valid, sure.
Yeah.
So there's definitely good stuff in it.
Yeah, definitely.
I just actually was a fan of the just, like, stereotype characters.
Yeah.
And how very, like, campy drama it was.
Exactly.
It was like you're watching a reality show that was in a horror movie.
Yeah, more or less.
Like, I was so down with that.
Yeah.
Of like, ooh, you said what to her? Oh, that's gonna get you killed by the monster in episode 2. Like,
gonna get freaking shanked by the demons of the burial grounds or something.
But anyway, so then another game is Vicious Circle that came out recently, which was actually made by Rooster Teeth.
Oh.
It came out a while ago, and I actually find it interesting. It's one of those games to where I probably wouldn't buy it right away because at release, it's definitely a thing where they're going to add more content to it to make it worth the full price point.
Not fully constructed just yet, but it's there.
But the point is basically kind of an Overwatch style. You have these set characters with their own kind of look and play style type of thing. And it's supposed to be kind of a cooperative competition to where you guys are against each other, but you can work together in certain aspects because you're basically all supposed to be bounty hunters who are trapped on this spaceship.
Okay.
And you have to collect these things called nuggets, basically, to get enough experience to leave. But only one person can leave.
Oh, it's just one. Okay, gotcha.
So, like, there are some things where it's better to work with 2 people to try and do this little minigame thing and get these nuggets, and then you split them. Or then maybe after you split them, you kill the other person, take theirs, and get off.
Yeah.
But there's also one player in the game who plays a giant alien chicken. And their job is to kill all the others and they win if no one leaves.
Fucking rad.
And if you die, you don't die. You come back as this little alien that can, like, grapple around the map and take over other people's bodies.
Oh, sweet. So, like, you just freaking possess people.
Yes. And then if you take over them, they become one of the little aliens. You take their body and whatever character they're playing as, and you have their nuggets.
Okay.
So if you kill them right before they get out, you can just take their body and dip.
That's actually pretty fun. I like that. That's a fun concept.
So I like the game. I know there's some other people who've been critical of it because they were expecting the next AAA game.
Yeah, and it's Rooster Teeth, so like that's obviously not something in their budget that they can do.
But I'm on board with it. I'm personally excited for it, but I'm thinking I'm going to wait till they add. They've, I think, talked about more maps, more characters, and more monsters like the chicken. So if they add those things, I'd be so on board with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also Gears 5 just came out recently.
Oh, like actually fully released?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear any fanfare on that.
So apparently, and this is something that I've heard from people who developed the game. They're like, yeah, Gears 4, no, it's kind of a letdown. We're more so testing some technical stuff. And now that we've done that, Gears 5 is supposed to be pretty much on par technically, but have a good story. So, I'm not a huge Gears fan, but for people who are, they might find it interesting.
I remember my biggest memory is just watching my brothers play part of it at one point, and that's it.
I have very similar memories, yeah.
None of it playing, none of it really experiencing. It's in the background. It's loud, violent, alien monster fight stuff.
Yeah, which I'll say one interesting thing that I found cool about this game, and I only saw it was a group of 3 people who were playing it, so I don't know if maybe you can do 4 or what happens if you only do 2 people. But it's you have one person who plays the main character, and when their character like goes through cutscenes or has hallucinations or whatever, and you're playing on that kind of multiplayer local thing, only they see it, so you just see them like doing this or whatever. It's not like everyone goes into the same cutscene, which is actually awesome, and I think it's kind of hilarious.
It's like more subjective in that sense. It's like, that guy's fucking freaking out. I wonder why. Oh, right. No, that's why.
And then you have another character who's just kind of another soldier, one of the story characters. The third person becomes a little robot that flies around.
Fun.
And they can give people, like, overshields. They can stun enemies. They can go, like, grab loot and bring it back to you.
Oh, okay,
and they
gotcha.
can do that kind of stuff. But the people who I was watching playing it, it was fucking hilarious because I think the guy who was playing the robot described it of like, you think it's one of those characters who you could give to like your little brother so they can feel like they're playing, but it's actually super important because if they fuck around, then you could die and get in a bad situation where they could give you health or...
Yeah.
I know the guy who was playing the robot would fuck around and pick up this really nice gun and just wave it in front of people's mind and not give it to them.
You want it?
Yeah.
And just like... but it's like an actually important character almost to play as.
Yeah, according to the guy who played it. So
cool.
I'm not a huge Gears fan, but I'm sure people who are would get excited for it.
Yeah. By the way, I just remembered a game that we could have talked about on here that I forgot. A lot of stuff came out about Death Stranding.
Oh, really?
A lot of stuff, like new elements and such, and just kind of gameplay things like that.
Oh, well, go ahead. What do you got to share?
Well, one thing I think is really interesting is that for the game, Hideo Kojima is kind of pretty obvious for like making super cinematic games with like weird gameplay mechanics, and he made a new mode for the game, which is called Cinematic Mode, which essentially is like. It's a mode for people who like to watch movies and are shit at video games. So essentially me. He made a mode for me, essentially. And it's like much more of the story focused, and it's very hand-holding, but there's so much more into like the cinematic aspect and like making it more like a film rather than a game, which I mean that's basically like has been his whole career, but like he's now kind of just fully embraced that. But now there's much more stuff like being able to kind of like control the camera like in certain scenes and not just like swivel it around on a fixed point, like actually move it around within like a set piece or something like that.
Okay.
And there's some interesting stuff and just some fun, weirdly specific Kojima gameplay mechanics like P motion control.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. But it's more or less just like we've kind of gotten an idea now of what the game is like gameplay wise now. It's like more or less like a very in-depth like Breath of the Wild or something like that, where it's very harsh survival system, very unnecessarily detailed at times, but like fun nonetheless. And yeah, there's just that cinematic aspect. And the joke that everyone was pulling around for like the entire time is if you point the camera at the main character's crotch, he'll punch you in the camera in the face. And I'm just like, of course, what a beautiful thing to just have that in there and be like, we programmed that because we knew people would do that. But that's more or less the Death Stranding stuff. It's just so strange. It's so we're getting closer to the release, and I'm still like, this is so fucking weird, and I love it. I don't know what this is, but yeah.
Yeah, from everything I've seen, I'm very much so in the opinion of like, I have not a clue what this is gonna be like.
Exactly. It's like could be a lot of things. There might be even more stuff that we don't know about that they haven't even showed. It's just like endless possibility at this point.
Alright, so the next on the list is Borderlands 3. I think it came out this weekend, I want to say. I could be wrong about that.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Were you a Borderlands fan?
I was not. Again, it's another case of saw my brothers play it all the time, and I just was like, this is cool. It's got that one song I like.
Yeah. Borderlands 2 was one of those games where I had a lot of friends who played, so I kind of experienced parts of it through there. But I never really played it or got into it myself. The lore kind of interests me, but outside of that, I wasn't a huge person who played all the games. But the new one looks really great. It still has the same art style from the others, but graphically, I didn't think that art style would improve with graphics. It absolutely does.
Yeah, like improved on sort of cell animation kind of look. That's cool. I actually don't think I've seen any clips on it yet. I might at some point. Because I actually do like that art style too, yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely one of those games where, like, I never played the other games, so I don't know what the gameplay felt like, but it looks really nice.
That's cool.
And it's still, in my opinion, from all the things that I've seen of it, feels very Borderlands.
Yeah, like it's more of the same thing, but, like, tweaked a bit to make it, more improved and such.
Yeah. So then the last thing we have to talk about is the fact that, and I don't think we talked about this before, was that Ninja moved to Mixer, which was a huge thing. Did you hear about all that?
I think I remember hearing like slight discussion about that.
Yeah.
Nothing too in depth though.
Oh, then I'll fill you in on all the goodness around this. So, Ninja put out a video on his YouTube channel and Twitter and other social media stuff. But I remember I saw because it was trending on YouTube, and it was so very corny of him at a fake press release thing saying, "Hey, I'm going to stream exclusively on Mixer." And that's coming from Ninja, as in Ninja, the Streaming with Drake, became #1 Twitch streamer. The king of Fortnite, that Ninja.
That same guy.
So it was a huge thing where Mixer paid him a shit ton of money to stream exclusively on Mixer, which, great deal for him, because then he gets, no matter how many views or whatever he pulls, he's got a paycheck from Mixer, essentially. But he started streaming, and he represented about 30% of all of Mixer's views were for going to his stream.
I believe it. I believe that.
So he was pulling good numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe not as good as his height, but still, like, for, hey, I just started a new Mixer thing, I'm going to be streaming on there, crazy numbers.
Yeah.
I don't remember them off the top of my head, but when I was seeing them, I was like, wow, that's
a crazy amount.
Cool.
Yeah.
But then meanwhile, Twitch was very, very petty about the whole thing.
Yeah, I could see that too.
To the point where, this had never happened to any other channel, his Twitch account, they basically just froze it and made it a page saying, hey, watch these other Twitch accounts. This Twitch user is no longer active.
Oh, Twitch.
Oh, but it gets even better. This is the part that made mainstream news headlines with it. At one point, because it just was kind of an algorithm to where it pick, like, random Twitch streamer try and promote other users in the ecosystem.
Yeah. One
of those users was a porn account. And his audience is kids. So for a solid period of time, Twitch used Ninja's account to accidentally promote to a porn live stream. So Ninja went off on Twitter, obviously super upset about that one. And it did not look great for Twitch at all.
Yeah, I could see a little bit why. I could see a little bit why.
Mm-hmm. So,
what the fuck? Of all things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not even fucking the thing Twitch was made for to begin with.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people use it now for that, but it wasn't its main purpose.
And I'm 99.9% sure, actually, no, I'm 100% sure, that is against their own guidelines. Ooh. So they promoted a stream that went against their own guidelines. First off, oh yeah, and it was porn.
And more or less marketed to minors. That's fucking amazing.
Kids who play Fortnite.
Fuck. Dude, how do you fuck up that bad?
So...
Oh, fuck you, Ninja, for going. We're gonna do something better.
And boy, did that backfire.
1 month later. Ah, shit, I guess we kind of promoted pedophilia, didn't we?
So... that was pretty much that situation there.
Wow.
Not great for Twitch at the moment.
All right.
But I will say it's also probably not the best thing for Mixer either, because they spent all this money for one user. So more people, since Ninja's gone over, have moved over to Mixer, but still they're really relying on this one person to make their platform sustainable.
Yeah, like just
which
their one asset.
Yeah, which of all the people to bring over and to make exclusively do stuff on Mixer, that was the person to do it. But I think Matt Pat from Game Theory, his point was, instead of giving Ninja like $10+ million to do this, just give more medium-sized streamers, and you can get 100 or 1,000 of them, pay them a fraction of that to stream exclusively on Mixer, and hope to build something a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah. More or less, in a way, just kind of distribute the popularity and wealth between, like, smaller ones, rather than just invest. It's like the film industry. Don't invest like $100 million on one big thing. Just do like smaller, medium-sized things. With small amount, you'll do fine. Decent efficiency on that one.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see the longevity of Ninja on Mixer and how he does on the platform, how the platform does with him on it, and then also to see Twitch's recovery, because that was like several weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And I still think they're not in a great place right now.
How are they gonna fix this PR
Because
mess?
that's coming right off of the one of their other big streamers, Dr. Disrespect, getting banned for a couple weeks.
Gotcha.
So
It's not the best of times for them, at least.
no, definitely not.
Wow. Okay, so I knew about like the whole Ninja moving on to Mixer and doing a deal, but I didn't know the fucking Twitch shit.
Yeah.
That was the thing I remember hearing about. Okay, wow. Yeah.
Anyway, well, on that happy note, we're gonna end
on a
this
confusing
episode
note, yeah. Anyways,
of the J4U podcast.
Yeah. What episode are we on now?
Oh, I always look it up after at this point now, just because
Fair.
I want to say close to 50.
Oh, sweet. I'm getting there, you know.
Yeah, if I had to guess, and if you're watching this after the live stream on the VOD, you'll be able to look down and see what number it is. If I had to guess, probably about 46, probably 47, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode of the J4U podcast. We had a lot of stuff that we just talked about, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Feel free, be a part of the conversation. Leave a comment in the comment section below. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Do it.
And please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Stay classy. Later. And let me cue up the thing I'm going to cut to. Awkward minutes. Bye.